Yeah, thanks, Ray.
There's nothing intellectual about us. We play rock and roll. It's just pretty lowbrow music.
Okay. When you write, do you write only for a specific album, or is songwriting a kind of a process over a whole year?
No, it's pretty much for the album. You know, when we're given kind of a loose deadline, you know, then we start the process of finishing the album, but nothing beforehand. I mean, you know, playing your guitar and sound check, you'll come up with a riff that you might remember, but there isn't a real kind of ongoing process, you know, and an album is just a capture of the process in that state at that time. No, the albums we put out are pretty much the basket of ideas and songs that we've collected for that time period.
Cool. So, is this a promotion work like interviews, for example, something like a necessary evil for you? Or do you enjoy it now sometimes?
It's part of the business. You have to do it. So it's not. It's just all encompassing of what needs to be done, I guess.
It can be enjoyable, you know, but a lot of that has to do with it's a two-way street, and doing interviews sometimes gets tedious, which is fine. I mean, it's a lot better of a job than a lot of other jobs out there. But the interviewee, meaning the person in the band or quote unquote the artist, if they meet their end of the bargain and the interviewer doesn't meet, i.e. doesn't do their research, when there's things like Wikipedia available at people's fingertips these days, and the interviewee feels that, you know, they haven't really, they're kind of left in the lurch there. You know, the interviewee looks bad. Not the interviewer never looks bad. So that's the thing about doing interviews. To me, sometimes I feel that it's a tightrope you walk, because it's not fair when the person who's interviewing you hasn't done their research, right? I'm not failing it to mean you at all. I'm just saying in general, you know.
Okay. Do you think you're your own manager? No.
JC was our manager.
Yeah, for pretty much almost, 13 years or so. And now we have the guy who runs Bad Taste Records, who's been our friend for so long. He's kind of taken over because it's so much work.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we're one of the few bands that just pretty much, we decided everything, we did everything. So I don't think we did everything right, but we did it our way, which is always a better
we're still
way
here.
of learning from your mistakes, definitely, yeah.
We're still here, so even if we did make mistakes, there's bands who we were told made the right choices, and they're not.
Yeah, they're not around anymore. So.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's very much work. It's don't you ever trusted any management?
Well, I don't think the situation was right more than anything, and also on our end, it's when a lot of managers came in to ask for the job, and then they found out that I never took a percentage for being the manager. They were shocked, and they didn't know. They're like, "What do you mean you don't get a percent?" I'm like, because they would be like, "Oh, we'll just take over and we'll take your percent." I'm like, "Well, I don't take a percent." And they're like, "Well, what does that mean?" It's like, well, everybody in the band makes equal amount, and that money just goes into it. So if you want to come in on board and work with the band, you have to work with the band from ground zero. Like, you can't be making more than the band's making, and the band's worked for 10 plus years. It's just, the equation didn't work out like that. Not to say that that was the deterring factor, but that really kind of went, a bunch of people went, "Wow, you did that?" I'm like, well, it only makes sense, right? It's your life, it's your business, it's what you do, and I'm not gonna charge myself 20% for booking a show that I'm gonna play. Like, it just didn't make any sense, right? So that was, I think that was a big thing. And then also just some of the people that approached us are the stereotype, skinny jeans, dress jacket, with a tie and a ponytail. It just looks like it was,
Appreciate
like a like a Simpsons character come to life, and you're like, what's going on?
There's a lot of people in music that want to make a lot of money really quickly, and they use bands to do that. And the bands are the ones left holding the bag.
And it's funny, some of those people who wanted to work with the band and management and stuff, then we get an email from them a year later. I'm running a clothing department. So it just shows there. If you guys need clothes, you should get in touch with me. You're probably like, oh, okay. I thought you wanted to.
All the cliches are true. There are a lot of snakes in the music industry. It's all true. And we've met a lot of them. When you meet them face to face, you don't really think there's no way that cliche can be true. But then it doesn't take long for them to show that they just want our money, or the money that we can potentially make for them. It's interesting.
So, is this also a kind of image from you, or is it just a way you play live?
It's a way to have our smelly clothes separate from our regular clothes.
Pretty much.
Now all those shirts and jeans that we play on stage, they're hanging upstairs, getting air, so they don't smell really bad. So
it's pretty much it. I mean, if you play every night like we do, you have to.
Yeah. And pretty much just wearing a black stuff is just kind of like, it just looks good with like a focal point. But at the end of the day, I'm wearing a $3 shirt and just a pair of jeans that I've had forever.
We tried other things, but I mean, the Motorhead aesthetic or the Lemmy Kilmister aesthetic and Johnny Cash Man in Black aesthetic really kind of works. It's kind of timeless.
So it's not a calculated image, like it's a bit of opposite of the rock and roll image.
No, not really.
Rock and roll image is very calculated for other bands.
Yeah, for other bands,
spontaneous as it may seem to a lot of people.
For us, it's just like, okay, get black so it doesn't get dirty quick. Sorry to break any myth. So now the black is turned to different shades of black. As it gets older and older, it starts turning dark gray, charcoal gray.
I mean, it's for practical means, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's no real image or kind of thought behind it other than that.
Okay, so let's talk about what are you thinking about while you're playing up on stage in front of the audience? Or are you thinking something when you play live?
I just think about playing the song right, really, and playing it with a lot of energy.
Yeah, pretty much. Same with me.
And sometimes I'm thinking, I hope Danko looks at me now so I can make him crack up and see if he can play without screwing up.
Yeah. But a lot of that. But I just.
But sometimes it works.
It's hard to really think about it after it happens. It's almost like it just happens in the moment. Like I don't really remember what I think when I'm on stage too much either. Mm-hmm. But when I am back on stage, you lapse back into that way of thinking. Mm-hmm. It's a very kind of almost dreamlike state. Things go really quickly, even though you're standing in one spot. There's a lot of things to look at. The audience, the song to remember, the other guys on stage to make sure that we're all kind of on the same beat. It's a lot of things. Mm-hmm. People throwing stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
The temperature in the club, your guitar, your instrument, if it's gonna break or something. So.
Mm-hmm. So in the other way, do you sometimes think about what the audience might be thinking of you now when you're on stage?
I personally don't. No. I mean, if there's a lull, there's a lull. But I mean, I'm not trying to figure out what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. You just keep playing. You don't really think about it too much. The moment you start thinking about it, I think the audience can really smell that. And then they realize that, you're trying to chase your tail. You just keep going straight and don't really give it too much thought. It's just the way to do it.
What's the more enjoyable? Is it more important for you to create a song or to perform it?
I think, well, you get both reward from it. I think creating it is a good feeling.
Yeah,
It's the
I
best
agree.
feeling. And then once you have it, it's kind of like you make the kid when you have the song. And then you watch it grow.
Yeah.
Watch him grow when you're playing. So that would kind of put it like that.
And
So
you never really capture it as good as you do in the
The
studio
first time,
the
yeah.
first time, or that feeling that you have when you go, fuck, we just wrote this wicked song. By the time you've played it, 500 times, it's kind of like, yeah.
remember that time, yeah. Like with Active Volcanoes, we wrote that in Lund.
Yeah.
On the day off.
I love that. I love
When
that
there's all
song,
these really
but
good-looking girls
Yeah.
walking around because it was the start of university,
it's
and we
good,
walked to the studio that we had.
good inspiration.
Like, did you walk down? He's like, did you see on the street? And I'm like, yeah.
And
And
we
then
just wrote that
we wrote a
song
bunch of songs, so
in
that was
10 minutes. I think.
yeah. In 10 minutes, it was me and him.
And even the solo isn't the exact solo, but it's almost what I did just for spur of the moment on the demo. Those are the moments where you kind of savor. Not to say that tonight when we play it, it's not going to be just as great, but it's different.
It's not at 30%.
No, but it's a different medium, so it's
Yeah,
a different
definitely.
feeling.
Talk about the big like a band contest.
No,
You know,
a band contest.
like a battle of the band
Yeah.
or something. No.
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 Although we've had Battle of the Band contest winners open for us.
That's true. Yeah, there have been like contests on the road.
And it's pretty funny when they show up with their huge entourage. And
I don't think it's really good to do those things, to be honest. I mean, for us at least. I mean, starting out, why do you have to compete with any bands when you know that you're the best band in the world? The moment you enter those contests, you're kind of admitting to everyone and yourself that you might not be as good a band as the next. You don't need to enter those contests if you know you're the best band in the world.
Cool. I read it problems to find a label in the USA for.
yeah, it's a bit of a... Well, because of the industry in the United States, there's been a big backlash on bands, and even bands that have sold in the United States, they can't find a label.
Yeah.
So the way we set it up now, it's a really good way, and actually it's been working out great for us, especially for Below the Belt. So again, kind of doing it the independent way in a bigger market is kind of the way to do it. And we're one of the first bands to that managed ourselves and did everything and put a big focus on touring, and that when everything happened, went digital on the internet and stuff, that helped us in the longer run. So now we're kind of seeing that being a positive for us. And even though at first it could be a negative not finding a label in the United States, but it's more finding a proper setup, because there's so many labels that they put out bands and they won't give them an advance anything, and if it doesn't sell, that's it. And the bands could be really good and they could do really, really well, but because they didn't see the sale, that didn't happen. And it could be something as simple as, they didn't put an ad in the paper for the first month and nobody knew the record was out, but nobody bought it, so you're out of there, right? So, but yeah,
It's the business.
it's the business. It's a dirty business.
So, the last question inspired you to become musicians at the beginning. How do you came into music when you were?
I like Kiss, so I wanted to do what Kiss is doing when I was a kid. That's pretty much it.
I want to meet girls. That's good, right?
Yeah. And that.
I hope it was successful.
Yeah.
We're not playing the Enormo Dome either, so
Yeah.
it's alright. Meet halfway.
Yeah.
So I also read about what have you done for a living before you formed the band. I've heard that some guys of you worked in a pawn shop. Is that true?
Yeah, I worked in a porn shop. it's just a sales clerk job at the end of the day. Just ringing up porn for people instead of shoes or something.
Just ringing up porn for people to choose. It's porn, dude.
I got to see as much porn as I could, but it wasn't in a really good part of town either. So it was kind of a shitty job.
It wasn't very glamorous, that's
No, it wasn't. It was kind of attracted a really sketchy clientele. But whatever. I mean, it was flexible, right? So we could go off and I could trade shifts or whatever, and we could play shows.
But you didn't last there much long anyhow. Was it 3 months?
I lasted there for a year.
Oh, wow.
For a year.
Time goes by quick.
I worked there for a year. My last day was Halloween night.
This is back when VHS was around. No
Yeah, we
DVD.
sold VHS. And I was so broke, I just walked home, which took me almost an hour. Yeah, one way, walking there and walking back. I didn't have money for public transit. But that's how it goes. It's now, I think it actually is a shoe shop now. It's gone down. It's not. It's a shoe shop. What was it? HLV Home Adult Video Warehouse Outlet. HLV Marketing.
Adult Video
Warehouse Outlet.
And a long title because it sounds more official, I guess.
Something like that. That's what it's called. I can't really remember the real name, but it's something like that. Warehouses in there.
Cool.